Okay, good day. I am just going to record so that you never know what happens, or I don't know if I may have to attend. I'm also doing this health class, so I don't want to make any excuses. So I would say prepare just in case. So good days, sisters, and everyone out there. We are going to go ahead and just wrap up the story of Ruth, and so we can move on to the other herons. As we know, our day is approaching. We are at the end of August, so we are, um, studying our herons and doing our reading so that we may be doing what we're supposed to do. All right, so we know with Ruth, I'll just do a quick little wrap up that uh, her and Naomi, they left the land because of the famine. They had to go on. They lost everything, and through this, we know that they, went through some things. They lost a sister-in-law, Oprah. Oprah decided to go on, but Ruth decided to stay with Naomi. Naomi goes in and she decides she was just depressed. She had kind of lost hope and felt that God had left her side, but He never did. These were things that were happening just because of before with the Israelites, and it was part of God's judgment that was brought upon them. That's why you have to know your family history and know your history to know it. It helps you to know what's going to go forth for you, and so you can prepare and be in prayer. But this the time that Ruth and Naomi were in, this was considered like the dark days, and there was a lot of suffering. It was the famine. It had been war, and so you know that when things happen, just like how we are now, you have the monkeypox and COVID. Like you don't know who may be caught up in it. All we can do is pray and read our Bible and live our day to day life. But the Israelites and the way that they were living, the immortality, this is what God had brought upon them for the sinful people. And like all of this did include the famine and war, like I said. Okay, so we ended, I think, last week where Ruth had went into the room of Boaz, and she was at the bottom of his feet. So I kind of dug and did a little more reading. That was their custom then. It really wasn't pushed for you to be with a man before you were married. Like I said, that was in this time. These days people do things differently. And it was like questioning your virtue as a woman for that to happen to you, even if you were raped. And this is still going on today. If you watch and read the papers from over in Israel, or present day Israel and present day Bethlehem today. Okay, so Ruth goes to the bottom and raises the cover, and Boaz notices that she's there, and she says to him, he says, like, what are you doing here? And she says that I am your servant. And he had gave her favor in the field, and because Boaz was their kinsman, he wasn't the only kinsman, but he was the kinsman who stood for Elmich, which was Naomi's husband, who had also passed during the famine. Okay, so at this time when we get here, um, just digging in the history, Ruth is about 40 years old, and Boaz is 80 years old. So it says that she found favor, and Ruth stayed Boaz that night, and she ended up leaving the day before. I mean, before daylight, so that she wouldn't be caught. She had prepared herself. We talked about how she washed herself, put on her perfume, and just made sure that she had everything together to be prepared. So here we go with Ruth, and so she left, and when she did leave, she went back to her mother-in-law Naomi, and Naomi was basically asking her, "Well, what happened? What did he say to you?" And so at that time, um, Boaz had to go to the elders, and he had to ask them. Basically, he had to ask them and let them know that he wanted to take in Ruth as his wife, and the other elder who who stayed in the same area, he had to answer, and so he decided that he did not want to take on Ruth because um, during this time they had to sell their property. So of course the property is under the man's name. So if he took in Boaz took in Naomi, I mean Ruth and Naomi, he also had to like take the land, and so he was going to be responsible for paying for Elmich's land that he still had there, and basically, that was their, we would call it our inheritance. That's what came with them. So Boaz would also be taking in Naomi, and this would reinstate their name and make sure that Elmich family name still went on, which that's how it goes in today. So here we go with Ruth. Um, After they had the meeting, um, Boaz goes back and he marries Ruth. When he marries Ruth, they end up having a son. So the son, so basically, I just kind of wrap it up. So Boaz, he went to the townspeople, just like I was saying, and there was just the they call him the guardian render, and he they didn't say him by name, but it's in there as you read a little deeper. He mentioned came along, so Boaz said, "Come over here, my friend, and sit down." So he went over and sat down, and Boaz took 10 of the elders of the town and said, "Sit here," and they all did. So then he said to the guardian rendemer, Naomi, who has come back from Moab, is selling the piece of land that belonged to our relative Elmich. And so he thought I should bring the matter to your attention, and he suggested that um, you buy it in the presence of those seated here. So they wanted to bring it up, and they brought it up before the elders, just like as we would do today. You're gonna bring it up before the elders, and there will be a vote on it. Um, and then we do know that sometimes these things come with, oh, somebody might not agree or this and that, and we know we got to go through the process. All right, so, but if he basically asked the other elder, but if you will not tell me so, I will know. For no one has the right to do it except you. That's what he told to him, because the other relative did not want to take on that land. He said it was gonna put his that would put his inheritance and land and stuff in jeopardy. So then Boaz said, "Okay, on the day you buy the land from Naomi, you also acquire Ruth, the Moabite." They refer to you for what tribe you come from, the dead man's widow, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property. So they trying to keep Elmich's name going. So um, with this, the guardian render said, then I cannot redeem it because I might endanger my own estate. So that was like I explained earlier. You redeemed it yourself. I cannot do it. So he basically telling Boaz, go ahead, do this. I cannot do it. So now in these earlier times with the Israel, for the redemption and transfer of property to become final, one party took off his sandal. So that would mean someone would go, sorry you guys, and take off their sandal. So I'm just giving a little demonstration. And he would give it to the person in order to seal the deal and also the money. So that was like giving your word in your bond, saying that I'm going to do this. So one party took off the sandal and gave it to the other, and this was the method to legalize the transaction. You know, like now, like for me, for instance, like I work for myself. I do grants, and I also kind of negotiate contracts for those who are trying to seek contracts for the city. So when I send my contract to the client, I'll say, um, as for me going to negotiate for you, this will be my percentage that you will pay me, and the person signs it and then it sends it back to me saying that they agree. Or if they don't agree, then we come back to the table and we come up with something else. So that's just like an example. So then after that, Boaz announced to the elders and all the people, today you will witness that I have bought from Naomi, because he had to buy that land from Naomi, all the property of Elmi. That meant that now they had a man who would represent them and would be responsible for taking care of them. Um, and today you witness, I have bought the land from Elmi, Kelon, and Malahon. Um, Now, I have also acquired Ruth the Moabite. So he's also saying, like, now Ruth is his wife. Malahon's widow as my wife, in order to maintain the name of the dead, which is Elmich. Malahon was Ruth's husband, so I'm just letting y'all know that. And Kelon was Oprah's husband, which were Naomi's sons. In order to maintain the name of the dead in this property, so that his name will not disappear from among our family. So it's about keeping your family name going and representing your family. And the town that you were in. So today the elders witnessed that. So then the elders and all the people at the gate said, we are witnesses. They let them know that they was agreeing. May the Lord make the women who is coming into your home. Now this part is very important. Like Rachel and Leah, who together built up the family of Israel. So Rachel and Leah came together and they built up this temple in the family of Israel. May you have standing in Ephrath and be famous in Bethlehem, which later on you'll find that Ruth is. Through the offspring the Lord gives you by this young woman. They considered young being 40. May your family be like that of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judea. And then y'all know from answering these questions like who all these people were. So Boaz took Ruth and she became his wife. And when he made love to her, that means when they were together, the Lord enabled her to conceive. Now that's at 40 and he 80 and he's still going. So men can keep on going. Women can keep on going as well. It's all in how we take care of our body. Okay, just know that. And it doesn't matter if your tubes are tied, and I consider we are just fertile people. Like no matter what birth control they give us, or even if you get your tubes tied, clipped, and burnt, if God says that baby's coming, that baby's coming. So a lot of people, and I've had a lot of friends, they get what we call surprise babies. Like for my mom, my sisters, my sisters were her surprise babies. She was past 40 and she was still having kids. So my sisters, I'm old enough to be their mom. All right, just an example. The woman said to Naomi, they were happy. Praise be to the Lord who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. So, I'm sorry, to Ruth. So after Boaz and Ruth are together, after Boaz and Ruth are together, um, Ruth becomes pregnant. Um, and they basically give a blessing over Ruth, the women. So that's very important. It's basically saying we pray over each other, watch the words you say over each other, um, and say blessings over your sisters. May he become famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. Saying that the son, so she's going to have a son, is going to sustain her. For your daughter in law, who loves you and who is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth. So now uh, Naomi may have lost her sons, but God gave her back a son, which is Boaz, and also gave her a daughter, which is Ruth. And Ruth still took care of her, and Naomi, uh, she was the we would say the like the sitter, basically. She was the one who took care of the child that they had. So the women living there said Naomi has a son. I just kind of skip ahead, and they named him Obed. Obed, yeah. He was the father of Jesse and the father of David. So here we see that Ruth is the great grandmother of David, who later on, they say David was a man after God's own heart. He